there'll be some times where I'll think of like a really good intro or outro or podcast description, but it'll be like as I'm falling asleep. I'll remember.
You always got to write stuff down.
I'll remember that, and then I never do.
Always have to write it down.
But I remember that one. Welcome to a whole new pod, a podcast all about Disney Channel original movies, watching them and appreciating them.
Appreciating, keyword here.
Maybe not always loving, but we appreciate the craft that goes into them. I'm your host, Lucas Melby.
And I'm Jacob Telejohn.
And hoo boy, that last episode. It was a good one. We enjoyed Cadet Kelly, but maybe a little too much, too profusely, too voluminously, because that was our longest episode. I went through all of our past episodes, and especially for an episode without Sam on it. Sam was actually a little upset we didn't have him on for Cadet Kelly, but who knows how long that episode would have been if he was on there. So
and you didn't cut out too much from it, did you?
I cut out about 15 minutes.
Oh, okay. I couldn't remember exactly
but it still
how long
was
it ended up being.
a long episode. But hopefully you enjoyed it. We'll make efforts to keep this hopefully of a more normal length, and in my eyes, a more manageable length for editing. So we're not going to beat around the bush. We usually don't talk that much before we get into the movie, but all we'll say is stuff in the world's still pretty bad. But you know what? DComs have been good.
They have. We're on a good run here.
Time is so weird as far as...
No, you lucky
we've
dog.
We've been in 2002 now for a couple months, but we've only done like 2 episodes. This is our third 2002 movie, but double teamed Cadet Kelly.
Double teamed. Man, that was a good one too.
In today's DCOM of True Confessions. We're on a good streak. And actually before that, 'Twas the Night we liked a good amount too.
Bryan Cranston.
Before that was Halloween Town. So Halloween Town 2. So we've been on a good streak since Halloween Town 2.
Oh, stop it. Halloween Town.
I really felt that Halloween Town was missing half-baked ideas about time travel. But we are not going to relitigate past DComs. We need to get into this one. And it was a good one. I was pleasantly surprised with this. This is a DCOM unlike one we've had for a while. The last one I can think of like this would be The Color of Friendship.
Yeah.
I did not say The Color Purple this time. I was practicing that. Where this is, as sometimes you could talk about in sitcoms, where there'd be a very serious episode once a season where they deal with something like racism, like in The Color Purple. And in True Confessions, we are dealing with mental illness specifically.
You just said Color Purple.
I did?
Yes.
Well, at least you mentioned it, because there's like sometimes where, as I'm editing it, I'll hear myself misspeak, and I'll be like, can I edit around this somehow? And I can't. So, The Color of Friendship dealt with racism, and this deals with mental illness.
Yeah.
But Shia LaBeouf's character, Shia LaBeouf's in this movie, spoiler alert, is autistic, but they just say he's developmentally disabled. And that's still fairly accurate, because now they've moved away, I think, as far as clinical psychology and that sort of stuff, of it's autism spectrum disorders, and it's not so much just autism, Asperger's. It's more treated as a continuum where you can land somewhere on there. So we'll get into it with one of the weirder intros we've had, where it starts off with a very dramatic shot of, well, maybe it's more just kind of cheerful at first, but it gets a little more dramatic as the movie goes along, of 2 young kids, maybe 3, 4 they're not very oldest, walking around in this field with matching white shirts and overalls on. One is a girl, one's a boy. Spinning around, swinging hands, and we'll quickly put together, as we switch to more normal shots and get some narration, that these are going to be our 2 main characters, Trudy, also known as True, and her twin brother, Eddie, played by Shia LaBeouf.
So we all know Shia, but True was also in another. She's a DCOM.
Going way back.
Yeah, back to like one of our first.
Literally the first.
Under Wraps, she was, I don't remember her name. No.
We looked up her name. It was, I don't know. But she did look familiar, but it was almost like familiar in a way that she looks like do I know somebody that looks like her? Yeah. But I guess maybe the connection my mind was making was to
from
Under
years
Wraps.
ago. Yeah. So yeah, they're using yet again another DCOM star and one of their DCOMs, and this is this Shia's first?
Nope, second.
No, second.
He was in Hounded.
That's right.
I can't forget Hounded.
Oh, man.
You talked about, as we were finishing up the movie, that you felt this movie was lacking a little Shia. So was Hounded. Hounded, he was kind of underutilized.
I don't even really remember him much in it.
We had Ed Bagley Jr. kind of do the heavy lifting as his father in that, and he was good. So as I briefly mentioned, we get some narration because, of course, this is the DCOM that's kind of over what could best be described as archival footage of True and Eddie. Just, I don't know, they're on the swings. Eddie, I think, is at some sort of Special Olympics type event.
There's a lot of that throughout the whole movie, like you said.
Well, this is finally, they have an in-universe justification for the main character to be narrating the entire movie.
Good point.
The closest besides this would have been Quince, where that essentially was, I'm just telling you a story. It made you look.
It made you look.
It was all a lie. It was all a dream. It was all Quince.
Yeah.
So True, as we learned from her talking, is she just loves her camera. That's where all this archival footage is apparently coming from, even though some of it includes her and Eddie in a single frame.
But being shot by somebody else. Who is this somebody else?
We never learn. So then we cut to her and her friends returning from school, which is by ferry. They take a ferry.
And he's not kidding. Like, that's a thing.
They take a ferry across some water, land, and then get on their bikes to go home. Yeah. And as they're doing this, her talk about... So she loves the camera, but she also just loves kind of the glitz and glamour of television and movies.
Paparazzi.
Where she says, hey, wouldn't it be great to live in a sitcom? Because everything would get wrapped up at the end of the episode and everything's all cool. And her friends are like, but that'd be kind of boring too. And she's like, nah, whatever, man. Reality's harsh.
Dropping facts here.
The only sitcom I want to live in is Home Improvement. Moving on. Stylistically, we can mention for this movie is constantly throughout the movie, we get kind of, best could be described as interstitials of just kind of TV static, cutting to some of this archival footage. Sometimes like quick close-ups of people in a row as Jake has been making the noise. Sort of like a camera flash as it's like zooming in on them. And there's some parts about the movie stylistically towards the beginning that are kind of obnoxious.
Well, some of the things you'd compare to the Frankie Muniz Miracle on Lane.
Quite shortly we'll get into her imagining her life in this idyllic sitcom fashion, complete with a cast and crew and live studio audience.
And
I was worried that it was going to continue, but
like that whole thing.
But kind of like in Miracle on Lane 2, where this movie gets a lot more serious than Miracle on Lane 2.
Definitely.
But Miracle on Lane 2 was also kind of front-loaded with some of that goofy stuff. And then towards the end of the movie, it just is like, you can't use a handbrake? This is absurd.
Oh, man, that ass.
So the True is with her friends, and they return home, where she opens the door, and this is where we first get a shot of Eddie outside of the old footage, and saying shot is accurate because he comes out with a big flash bulb, old-fashioned style camera. He starts jumping out towards True and her friends, and the flash bulb was actually operational, maybe. Yeah. And he keeps doing that and yelling, paparazzi, paparazzi.
And her friends are pissed.
Yeah, and I will say...
And she's pissed.
Yes. True and her friends are both taken aback, and her friends are just basically like, see ya.
Yeah.
We're getting out of this because
this is like
her mom shows up and says, oh, what's going on? And True's yelling, saying, Mom, blah, 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 stop. And it's all chaotic. And I honestly, if I was in that situation, I would probably want to go home too.
But this is like the only time we ever see her friends kind of just like, ew, like we don't like this dude. Like after this, they just seem fine with it.
Thankfully, they are nice to Eddie.
Yes.
And up front, we can just kind of talk about Shia LaBeouf's performance as Eddie. It seems that I don't think Shia, I always, for the longest time as a kid, I just never really separated what was his real first name.
Shia LaBeouf.
Always Shia LaBeouf, just one clear statement. Yeah. And we had Leonardo DiCaprio in What's Eating Gilbert Grape playing some kind of developmentally challenged
and
character.
I think he played well. I thought he should have got an Oscar for that role.
I mean, if you have a decent child actor, hey, he's not Rosie O'Donnell playing riding the bus with my sister levels, or John Travolta in, I think that movie recently was called freak or something. I don't know.
Oh.
But he does a good job. He
Yeah,
I think
he doesn't do it over the top.
Yeah, I think he accurately displays some of the mannerisms of at least autistic people that I've experienced in life, and it doesn't feel too over the top. Some of those like little ticks
or
where
like
he
mock.
hands and kind of twists them in some different ways when he's talking. Maybe some of that could be looked at as stereotypical.
Does like a lot of like blinking,
stumbling over his words.
Yeah.
Which, hey, coming from me, you don't need to be developmentally challenged to stumble over your words sometimes. But so I think it's not exploitative or anything like that. And I think we will come into some situations where the plot of the movie puts him into some scenarios where it feels a little like, I don't know, this maybe is a bit much, but his portrayal in the general sense, I think is pretty good.
Good, yep.
So then after True gets done arguing with, she argues with her mom where basically she's like, Eddie, you just treat him like he's the best. He gets away with everything. If I did any of the stuff he did, you wouldn't let me do it. And this movie is, I think, pretty realistic with its character portrayals and growth, where me and Jacob both had the sense where she's lived with Eddie her whole life. She should be used to some of his autistic antics or whatever. But she's also will learn, I think she's a freshman in high school, so that means she's young, 14-ish. And you know what? Sometimes teenagers are angsty little shits.
And that's what it is, too. Maybe she just reacts to him based on what's going on in her personal life. You know, maybe she can take it or maybe she can't.
Understandable. Maybe not relatable, but understandable.
Yeah.
But it does not make True an initially likable character.
No.
But unlike some other DCOMs we've watched, like Cadet Kelly at the beginning of that movie, where
she just seems
you're maybe actually supposed to like her. I don't think you're supposed to necessarily like True at the beginning of this movie, which is asking a lot for a movie where it is named after a character and that character narrates the whole movie.
Exactly.
So as we mentioned a little bit earlier, we here get a daydream of what True would view as her ideal mom, where it's in the trappings of a sitcom, but an older style.
Feels like Lucille Ball.
Or the Honeymooners, where it's just like 50s style dresses and sets. Her mom's just like, oh, your fashion sense is so great. I wish you would give me $100 allowance. And then the audience laughs because while it's supposed to be a sitcom, there's not actually any real jokes being involved here.
Because they have like the applause or laugh.
And this crowd is very into this fake show.
They love it.
They are uproarious with their applause.
Yeah.
But then she comes in and says, my life's not a sitcom, more like a soap opera. My question is, as a 14-year-old girl, how much is she watching? How many
soaps are you watching? Are you my mother?
And based on what I understand of soap operas, I don't think anybody would continue watching it if it was a fairly realistic portrayal of a family dealing with a child with autism and not, murder, sex, backstabbing, people coming back from the dead, evil twins, that sort of thing.
Oh my.
Then we find out that True and Eddie's dad is a neurosurgeon, which True thinks is gross because brains.
Ew.
Which is not usually, I would think, what kids would think.
Cool.
Eddie seems to think it's cool, as we'll see a little bit later on in the movie, to operate on a brain.
Yeah.
I think this is where we kind of introduce what I would think of as a burn book, but it's kind of just like her own personal scrapbook of true stories, top secret, and a lot of very late 90s, early 2000s lettering, and she says some story about baby sharks attacking each other
and then it shows like I don't know, how would you describe that? It just shows like her notebook comes to life. The shark eats the other shark,
and she does not go baby shark do.
Thank God. But like her shark eats Eddie's shark, or
she slams.
Or does he?
I think
eat
Eddie's shark maybe eats hers, and then she slams the book and
weird.
goes, "No!"
It was weird.
The book, and just especially we get her where she. It's unclear what really the purpose of her video is, but I guess back then you didn't necessarily have a purpose.
No.
Kids would just make their own movies for their own pleasure and to do with friends. So she just is essentially vlogging, where she's just talking to her camera, but it's not like she does anything
Is this like the first time we see her sideways TVs too?
I think so. She's got a very very cool,
artsy room,
very cool kids room. Almost, I got some iCarly vibes. Maybe just some of that might just be the technology where she has a setup where it's like she has her camcorder that has the screen that can face towards her so she can see like the viewfinder.
Is this when we got that really weird scene, or did we get that earlier where they just like cut between like all the different cameras? And
I think this is
all over the place.
I'm basing this on my notes, but I think that's what my notes are trying to get at here.
It was weird.
It's kind of hard to describe. She has a setup where she'll see it in the viewfinder of the camera, but then she also has it connected to her computer. So that's where it's like, whoa, she does she do something with that? But then she also has some weird artistic installation
TVs
in her room.
Stacked sideways.
Yeah,
on
she
one
has some kind of shelf that contains 3 CRTVs on their sides, but they just shoot them vertically. So we just see them on the side. So when she's talking about I fucking hate my life to her camera, we're seeing all these different cuts between the camera, her,
but she's always sideways, like you said.
Sideways TVs, and it's a little overwhelming at first.
No,
thankfully, these kind of stylistic flourishes they get a little more toned down.
Yes, they wean out very quickly.
That night, Eddie is setting out the table, the dishes for supper. And he wants to put down spoons, but True asks Mom what they're having, and whatever they're having does not require spoons.
He must have learned, like, the placement of that, because he mentioned somebody's name, like, oh, somebody said that this goes...
He mentioned his teacher's name or something, that, I think, is something that's very accurate to autistic people, as they they like routines a lot, and... You know, if they have an idea in their head or they've learned something a way, they are very stringent and specific about doing it. So True doesn't want to put the spoons out because she's got to do dishes that night.
Yes.
Where, it's like, if the spoons don't get used, I'm just talking from personal experience.
We just put them back away.
If I'm putting away my dishes after I've eaten off of them, I didn't use a spoon and I know that, I'll put the spoon back in the drawer.
Yeah.
Also, their dad's a neurosurgeon. I would think they'd have a dishwasher. And not need to wash spoons by hand. And even if you do need to wash spoons by hand, that is basically the easiest dish to deal with.
No.
But the mom is arguing, or she's arguing with the mom again, and the mom's like, fine, I'll do the dishes. That's not the point. And True. And I believe this is here where she says, she gets her camera and says, note to self, when I make the movie about my life, remind me to cast somebody else as my mom.
Zoom in on her mother's face in shock.
Which is a very mean thing to say, but
she's
also,
hurt.
If she made a movie about herself, True wouldn't be playing herself.
That's also
That's not
true.
how movies about people work. Generally, I can't think of any examples off the top of my head that involve the actual person still being in their own movie.
From whatever. Oh, he doesn't play himself, but does he? In that...
in the Disaster Artist. Yeah. No. Yeah, what if the Disaster Artist just had Tommy Wiseau playing Tommy Wiseau? And then she cuts to some more archival footage of her mom where she says, like, oh, look at what she wears out in public. And it's her mom just at the grocery store. Yeah. I think she's just wearing a normal outfit.
But her mom's like being like a bitch.
Well, she says she asks the stupidest questions, but then it just comes off that her mom's being a bit of a Karen, asking the store clerk if these are real.
Is this
organic?
Really organic? And then she just like waits, and the guy like looks at her like in disgust, and she's like, would you put this out here? Are you just trying to like sell it to like conscientious people like myself? And the guy's like, fuck off. And he just
Which I didn't really think would have been a thing 18 years ago, but I guess organic falsehoods were still a thing back then.
And she just like,
but the store clerk was bad.
Yeah, he literally didn't say a word.
I worked in a grocery store. You would not get away with that kind of customer service.
Yeah, ignoring her.
And then at supper, Dad has gotten home, and they're kind of chatting, talking about the paparazzi thing from earlier. And then the mom is passing, I think, a bowl of broccoli to Eddie, and Eddie drops it, and it's a glass bowl, and it shatters
everywhere. And he's like, we can't eat that damn broccoli with glass in it.
The dad is like, specifically, not Eddie.
No.
What the fuck, Mom? But yeah, the dad gets super upset, and...
Not the first time, not the last time.
So we're getting these setups of relationships where True's kind of got some tension with Eddie, also with her mom, and the dad, in true DCOM fashion, is a bit of a dick.
Yeah.
But it's actually warranted.
We only really ever see him as a dick.
And that it's purposeful.
Yes.
So this is the part where she does talk about the baby sharks. And then she kind of talks about, is it my fault that Eddie's the way he is? Because I guess sometimes people with developmental disorders, it's related to not getting enough oxygen in the womb. Yeah. So she says, I'm the twin who came out first. Is it then my fault? If I came out second, would Eddie be the normal twin and would I be the challenged one? So she's working through some stuff. And then we see that her room is apparently across the way.
It's really weird how that house is laid out.
So her window is looking out to the room where Eddie's in, and his window is right there. At
first, I thought, like, do they just keep him in, like, a separate guest house? Like, what is happening?
That's where he lives in Hounded, kind of.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that, especially as you get older as two teenagers of the opposite sex, like, gotta keep them separated.
Yeah. Oh.
Anyways. She hops onto her computer and goes to what is essentially, I said, like a Yahoo Answers site.
Yeah.
But I guess it turned out to be just health questions, which probably was a little bit better than in 2002 than now, where now don't go asking
my body
questions.
Exploded, everything.
Get lots of expert advice.
Goofy answers.
But she's asking for help with Eddie just to kind of come up with ways to help him feel more normal in the world and help him just live a better life or something like that.
They should have had a trolley answer to her question. Maybe not, though.
Sure, yeah.
It's probably best.
We'll get to some of that later.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite stuff. Then at school, we learn and meet hot junior Billy Meyer, who is the crush and fixation of True. But Billy seems like a total shit. But
because he is.
He's
even worse than that.
He is a love interest that I feel is used in a very satisfying way for once in a DCOM.
He's awful.
Anyways, then at lunch, True's friend Jake, who for this is relevant to say that he is African American.
Yes.
So this scene with, I only assume, is accidental, but he has a sandwich from his mom or whatever that is liverwurst.
Yes.
And he's like, oh, gross.
Yes.
And then True takes out a Ziploc bag or a Tupperware container.
And it should have been refrigerated or something. I don't know.
Cold fried chicken.
His eyes are bugging out of his head.
Which is supposed to be that, it's just a better alternative than a liverwurst sandwich.
But like he's licking his lips. It seemed a little...
Directors of this movie, you could have picked literally just
Eddie food.
So many others besides stereotypical things like that.
Yes.
But I don't know, through this food exchange, he tells her about this contest to host your own TV show.
Yeah.
Or something like that. So she comes home and is really excited and tells her mom about it. And her mom's like, I don't know if you should try. You might not get it.
You might not even win. Do you understand that? You might not even win.
Did seem kind of unsupportive of the mom.
Yeah, she has like her moments where she's like really understanding of Eddie and the daughter, obviously, but then there are moments that she does kind of seem like a little like, I don't know.
The mom's not perfect either.
No, and that's the point of the movie. We're not all perfect.
But then she's trying to come up with the title of what her show could be, and she's, I don't know. True Wants to Be a Millionaire, NYPD True. I don't remember all the other ones, but she does not name drop the title
like
of the movie.
Like we get in so many other DCOMs. We've had multiple DCOMs.
Where did Quince get off saying it's Quince?
It's Quince. Like they even could have did it like at the beginning, when there were multiple times, I'll say. I don't want to like spoil the ending or anything.
Yes.
There are multiple times where they could have said the title.
There are a billion times in this movie where anybody could just say True Confessions at any moment.
Yeah.
The dad bursts home one day, True Confessions, I got it.
There are definitely times where it could have been said.
Oh, yeah. She can't come up with a great name. Then at school, she talks to her English teacher, and he says, hey, what do I always tell you? Write what you know.
Write what you know.
She's trying to figure out what she knows to make a video about.
No.
At work, we see Mom scrolling through, I guess, this medical questions forum.
Because she was going to look up something...
Oh, yes. She was looking up something for Eddie for music classes.
Yes, and then she's like, well, I came across... And how did she know it was her daughter?
Because she signs it True.
Oh.
Like, I don't know if it was like True T or like whatever her last name is, but she does say True.
Okay.
So that's how
she knew it was her daughter. And
but also, I think True refers to Eddie by name, saying like, my brother Eddie.
Oh, okay.
So she's seeing this post and she's talking to her coworker.
And I couldn't tell, because she had something typed up on it. I couldn't tell if she deleted it or if she submitted it.
So
she must have
that is
submitted.
her sending a response.
Yeah, so she must, because it like disappears off the screen, and I don't know if it was like deleted or sent, but yes, we do find out.
Maybe it's purposely ambiguous for the surprise, if you can even call it that, later on.
Well, it kind of is too, because I mean, at first we don't really,
If you're maybe not a child, it's pretty obvious.
I mean, Dee Dee's
But she's talking to her coworker, and her coworker is like, "Oh, you're lucky she's still living with you." But the mom is upset because True used to come to her directly with these concerns, and now she's just throwing it out into the
internet for anybody, for bikers, for old women, for 50s housewives.
So then back at home, we get a fun scene, but I think a little too elevated with goofiness, where Mom and True are already in the kitchen, and then Eddie comes in with a lab coat and doctor's instruments.
Yes, he's ready to drill.
And he says, Dr. Eddie reporting, and then he goes over to a watermelon and says...
And they're like playing along with it.
Yeah,
they're not like
so it's a
pissed
cute
at
moment
him.
with the family where they're making kind of drilling noises or saying like, paging Dr. Eddie. So
and like the sister just starts screaming.
Yeah,
but
which is maybe a little terrifying.
He plunges this like brain tool into the watermelon.
I couldn't tell if he was actually... So it's kind of like a corkscrew thing where he's operating on this watermelon, but I don't know if it actually was going into it.
I think it was in the watermelon.
I couldn't tell, but somebody who didn't even want to tell whether it was going in the watermelon or not was Papa. Papa brain surgeon came home and was like,
pissed.
"The fuck is this bullshit?
These are my damn heirlooms from my father.
They're antique
tools. He's pissed.
Is this what you think of me? You think I'm busting my ass going to work every day just drilling into a fucking watermelon?" At least they didn't have Jake, her friend, show up in this.
Oh my god, I was like, was Jake over for supper?
So he gets very mad, and then Eddie actually drops the watermelon.
Well, Eddie's like, what do you say? I'm not a doctor, and then like,
he's like, you know what? I'm not a doctor, and
the watermelon explodes.
He drops it on the floor.
Yes, it explodes, and then he
says
runs off.
Doctors are mean.
Is that what he said?
I think he says doctors are mean. Some of it gets a little just, mixed in the crying.
Because he's like crying, yeah. And then he just runs away. And I don't know if the dad feels bad now. I can't remember if he was feeling bad.
Yeah, because then we see him talking to his mom mom. The mom, where mom says, "Hey, you scare him because you're a fucking dick all the time.
Yeah, you're
always
monster.
At like 11, you're always like 0 to 60 all the time."
Yes.
And then the dad says, "Will you baby him?" And they get into a bit of a disagreement where the mom...
We need to raise the bar.
Yeah, he is... And I can understand, I'm sure when you're becoming a father and you're going to have a son or whatever, you have all these ideas.
You want him to be normal. You want to be able to play catch with him. You want to be able to...
All those kind of
show
things.
your porno mags to him, just stuff like that.
Okay, speaking about your own personal experience. I mean, Jacob was an only child, so maybe I missed out on some of that stuff that my brothers got to do with my dad. But I thought this was fairly realistic where the dad, especially because he's a very successful professional.
Yeah,
he's a freaking brain surgeon.
Probably has higher standards for his
that he says,
children.
Well, if we lower the bar and we just settle for where he's at now, then that's where he's always going to be, because they say, oh, well, we didn't think he was going to make it to a mainstream school.
But he did that.
But he was able
he's
to
making
make
progress.
There.
And the mom's like, well, maybe he just won't. Maybe this is just where he will be,
So that's the kind of tension we get with them. Yeah. And then pretty close to this, we see the dad taking Eddie out to play a game of catch at the park. And
Dad is strategically placed in front of like woods and just a lot of foliage.
And Eddie always throws it very high over his head, so the dad's always kind of chasing it.
Sometimes falling into the woods, sometimes having to dig through the woods to get the ball.
And we get some kind of fun
music, yeah. It's
acoustic like, poppy song.
Yes, but it never fades out. The father at first starts off very excited. Like, he's like into it, he's having fun, he's like, okay, but then like, after like the 5th or 6th like shot, you can see that he's like getting tired.
Yeah, we're just
and, like,
getting quick cuts to him getting overthrown or trying to chase after the ball.
Yes.
And I think it's a combination of him getting frustrated with Eddie's ability at baseball, but I read it also as him coming to terms with maybe I am actually having
Eddie's
too high of
capabilities.
expectations for him, and I have to start being more realistic about Eddie's actual abilities and what he'll
Yeah.
be able to do in
Yeah.
life. But that's just me. Some people don't get that interpretation.
But out of this, Eddie gets a hot fudge sundae,
yeah,
I think.
the dad just is like, you know what? Fuck
Fuck
this.
it.
Let's go get ice cream.
Yes.
I'm like, that's what I
Win-win.
should have done. I never played baseball. And my dad never said, let's go play catch. But I should have just, purposely just overthrown and said, all right, now let's go to Dairy Queen. So then True is getting some responses on the forum post, and we get to see a couple of funny representations of the username.
Love
so the first
this.
one,
This
it was
is
just
great.
Misty77.
She was a bitch. She must have
Who
been
is just-
77 years old.
Yeah, I guess. Which
'Cause
is
they,
not
like-
usually how usernames come up. It's usually like maybe
That
the
they're
year
born.
of their birth.
Yes.
But she's an old lady.
So does she
in-
change her username every year?
In True's vision of her, she's an old, frumpy, kind of church-looking lady.
Jesus.
And she says, you're not going to be able to change who Eddie is, but I think if you
It's
have
in the Lord's hands now.
a better sense of faith, that will help you get along in life.
And then what
Which
was
didn't
this?
seem like overly
No.
crazy.
What was like the sound they faded her out with? I don't remember.
I think
it
it
was
ga-
church bells?
Maybe. It was another kind of just like those quick cuts, like snapshots of like
yeah.
her face. It was very kind of spooky.
I think they were like church bells that faded
kind
her
of
out.
reminding me of like Dexter.
Yes.
Where he's, taking pictures of like a dead body or
Yes.
something. And then we get the best character of the movie, the personification
El Chapo.
of Chopper LA.
Yes.
Who's just a big burly biker
I think
guy.
my son's got what your brother's got.
Well, our school board was really great, so hopefully the school board can help you out. Go with God.
And it's like, vroom, vroom, vroom.
I'm like, hey, that was decent advice.
Is he sitting on a motorcycle?
Yeah.
Yes, he is. He's sitting on a motorcycle, and yes, instead of the church bells, now it's like vroom, vroom, like revving, and the.
But then we get apparently the better response that comes from
Yes.
Dee Dee, who
Dee Dee.
is envisioned as
A
kind of the
50s
perfect
housewife.
Yeah, the perfect 50s housewife. She's in a nicely decorated kitchen. She's walking out with a pie.
She's kind of cute.
me and Jacob were quite taken by Dee Dee.
She's kind of cute. Okay.
Not like Dexter's Laboratory Dee Dee at all.
No.
Dee Dee.
But-
I'm trying to look up if I said like what Dee Dee says.
She fades out, I know, by saying, well, you can come and talk to me anytime,
Yeah. She just gives some like good advice, and it's
Yeah.
like, okay, this is clearly her mom saying these things, but True finds whatever she says very profound.
Yes, because she prints out pictures and sticks it on the wall of what she thinks this woman looks
So
like.
yeah, it gets a little
It's really weird.
where it's
They never address it.
I feel like it must be like a deleted scene or something where
Yes.
in a later scene in the
pictures,
movie we
two different
actually
ones.
see the actual actress and setting of Dee Dee in her mind as a picture, just a
On
printout
her
normal
door.
picture on her door. So you can kind of imagine what the scene would be where she's kind of projecting this response onto this apparently image that she likes,
Yes.
and that becomes Dee Dee. But without that context, it's very weird.
Yes.
And it's not like she has a picture of Chopper LA
No.
or Misty 77 up
So I'm
there.
guessing, maybe it's just a show that she likes watching, and then she just thinks that it's this
Yeah.
person. It's not like she just
I don't
Googled
know.
like 50s housewife. Oh.
Weird oversight by the set decorator or something.
And it's not like Dee Dee is using this character as like a profile picture.
No, this was certainly before that. I
Yeah,
would think.
exactly. Weird.
True is still fixated on the contest, and I don't know, through talking about like, what do I know? And she sees Eddie trying to undo his bike lock or something, and then she says, "Oh, I'll do it about Eddie."
Yes.
And then she has to hop back on the ferry to go back.
Yeah,
to
she
school.
ditches her friends. Yeah, her friends bring Eddie home now.
They do, which is quite the responsibility.
'Cause
But
this is-
the friends are good friends.
Yeah, I know Jake, the one friend, plays baseball with them at some point.
And
It goes quick from we
I
gotta
guess
get
we
out
never
of
really
here.
actually introduced her friend. I just said she was with her friends. Her two main friends are Jake, who we talked about most importantly in his scene at the
Yeah.
lunch, and I think the girl is named Helen.
She's
maybe?
in it less than Jake is.
Less than Jake. That's the name of a ska band.
Oh,
All right,
Oh.
that's the end of the episode.
that's it.
So then True gets back and she's got a bunch of books, heavy, big research books in.
That she drops on the ground.
And then her dad picks them up and helps her get through the door. And then I feel like this scene gets a little too ridiculous, but
Oh yeah, it does.
I can't speak to living with an autistic person, but Eddie comes out and is rollerblading in the house. And he's like, Dad, look, I'm doing it. Yeah. And the dad is
you hear glass shattering several times.
Eventually. But most of the time during this, the dad is kind of like, cool. Yeah. Good job, Eddie.
He's not like pissed at
But then
him.
he starts to get a page from his pager.
Yes, then he gets a phone call, I think.
Yeah.
too.
Well, I think he's calling on the phone. That's what pagers do. They give you a phone number to call.
True.
For
True confession.
apparently blowing the mind of this millennial and also the Zoomers and whoever else listening to this episode.
Pager?
Then the doorbell rings, and wouldn't you know it, it's Billy,
Asshole Billy,
the hunk Meyer,
the hunk.
doing a grocery delivery, which I guess was a thing for rich people back then.
And he looks like
not just
I don't
during
know,
COVID times.
Like when she greets him at the door, she's like, "Oh my god!"
He never seems nice at all.
But he seems almost embarrassed that he's seeing.
Well,
that she is seeing him as a grocery delivery guy.
Oh no, I think he's
almost
embarrassed. Kind of the cringe reaction because he's looking in on this house and Eddie is going crazy, basically swinging from the chandelier.
When he steps inside, he has that response. But I think when she first greets him, he's all like, oh shit.
I think he just doesn't like her.
No, he doesn't.
So then he comes in. Eddie knocks over one of the bags of groceries. True's trying to pick it up. Eddie runs over her finger.
Yeah.
There's oranges spilled out on the floor.
And he's like, I gotta fucking get out of here. I gotta get out.
The dad
Where's my money?
pays him real quick, and it's just so overly chaotic.
Yes.
It ends with the mom coming home and be like, "What the fuck's going on?" The dad saying, hey, "You gotta take care of him because I gotta go back to the hospital."
Is this when Eddie's eating carrots?
And he comes up with a bundle of carrots and says, "Hey, True, what's up, Doc? You get it?" And I don't, Bugs Bunny is a Warner Brothers character. I don't know if
they've done this before, though.
If there was a Warner Brothers movie where they mentioned, I don't know, if somebody
Disney?
said, Gorsh or...
Gorsh, Gorsh, Mickey. Like Gorsh.
Okay, Donald. I don't think Disney would be very cool with that.
No,
so
probably
they should have
sue their
respect
asses.
and say, you know what? Bugs Bunny, maybe more iconic than some of our characters, but we're going to use him right now.
But because kids would recognize that quote.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's not like you can't.
Who are you trying to fool, Disney?
Yeah, it's like you said, oh boy, nobody's at a fucking Disney.
Yeah, I thought
boy.
if somebody just does a Donald Duck voice
Yes.
or something. Jacob's original rise to viral
rise to fame.
I was like, should we go into that? I'm like, nah, we don't need to. We'll save that for some other time.
Another time. Story time.
So yeah,
Secret
she
time.
gets so upset with everything going on, and especially, I guess, with the carrots, because he kind of puts them towards his mouth, that she grabs the carrots
And shoves them down the garbage disposal, turns it on, and Mom's like, what the fuck?
she said, "It was Billy Meyer, Mom. Billy
And she's
fucking
jamming him
Meyer."
deeper and deeper into the garbage disposal.
And the mom says, "I don't fucking care who it was. You just wasted good food."
And she makes a jab at Billy Meyer at the dinner table, too, the mom does. She mentions Billy Meyer or something. I don't know.
Well, True's basically just, I hate my life. She storms off. That night at supper, she comes down and
with
she's created
paper carrots.
weird paper carrots.
And
Just a peace
Shia
offering.
is nibbling on it.
Yeah.
And then the mom pretends to cut it up and eat it, and she's like, it's a little fucking dry.
She says, "I'll give it a 5.5.
I thought she said I'll give it a 5 out of 5.
Oh, no. I
Maybe
think she
not.
said, "I'll give it a 5.5. Maybe Billy Meyer would rate it higher." And I guess maybe cooking shows were a thing back then. But I don't know what cooking show would operate on a 10-point
points.
scale
Yeah.
with decimal points. That's
Yes.
technically a 20-point scale.
Yes.
That's a very granular food scale. Michelin only goes up to 5 stars.
Dinner goes good, though, right? I don't think there's any...
It's a nice family moment.
I don't remember if the dad says anything or jokes. I can't remember.
Yeah. She writes another post where she kind of talks about how she sort of, in a way, feels jealous of Eddie because he's kind of just...
He
in his
loves
own
everybody.
world. He's happy all the time.
Yeah, and they
fairly
show him
carefree.
playing with a car and I don't know, he's using cans as
Yeah.
buildings and stuff. I don't know. He's just always happy.
That's a thing to just say out there. Oh my gosh. Swallowed something.
Gotta spit it out.
That was Karma being like, I'll allow Jacob to say that. Let that slide. We got a very extremely funky montage of her starting to film her video about Eddie, where it's just very funky pretty groovy music and just a lot of shots of her interviewing a doctor.
Oh, yes.
Showing Eddie trying to brush his teeth.
Yes.
Stuff with like plastic models of brains. All of that stuff. So she eventually comes up with a rough cut that she
shows her friends.
I guess, I don't know. I just interpreted it as a rough cut, but maybe she hoped it would be a final cut.
Shows her friends with Eddie.
And it is dry and extremely boring.
Eddie's the first one to fall asleep. Her friends, like, when she's not looking, they're just, like, passing out, too. They're, like, really tired. And then when she looks over at them, they're like, oh, my God, yes, this is amazing.
And the content of it is basically she's showing... Mostly just seems like kind of diagrams of brains and stuff like that. And it's essentially reading off an encyclopedia entry about like, autism or brain structure.
Yes, and it is very informative, but
it is not the exact kind of video. If you watched it in a class, you would actually get nothing out of it because the delivery is just so bone dry.
And her friends end up being honest with her, like, yeah, it was informative, but just really boring. Mm-hmm. And Eddie makes a remark. I can't remember, like, loved it. It was great or something. I can't remember what he said.
It needs more car crashes.
Oh, well, yes, later. I don't know if he says that when he's walking away.
You're right.
Yeah.
But she gets a second opinion, which is something one of her friends suggest. And the mom says she thinks she played it too safe. And True does not like this, but the mom's like, you played it safe.
Go with what you know.
She says, I think you should show your point of view, or POV, and I'll say POV videos are some of my favorite videos on the internet. Just let that hang there. Jacob's on his phone, so he didn't really, maybe Jacob's looking at a POV video right now.
Those are my favorite.
So True does not like this criticism. Well, she takes it as just criticism, but it's certainly constructive criticism. And then she has a heart-to-heart with Eddie, where they're kind of reading this kid's book where she's making farm animal noises, and it's a sweet little moment.
Yeah.
And this is where Eddie says, I think it should have more car crashes. But then Eddie also asks her why that she doesn't play with him anymore, and she says, I'm working on my tape.
He's like, you're no longer my twin. You don't want to be my twin anymore or something.
Yep, and that's kind of...
It was sad. There is multiple moments throughout the movie where it gets kind of like emotional.
They're not overly forced decom heart-to-heart moments.
That's the same. Like if I had a heart, I might have cried throughout this movie multiple times, like the characters do.
Mm-hmm. So then she immediately runs to her computer to then go talk to Dee Dee about how can I not be such a terrible sister.
Yes.
Then we get what I felt, especially at this point in the movie, felt pretty random, is they go and they're on a soccer team together.
Yeah, True, like literally out of nowhere. And like both parents.
There's no indication. Too, right? There's not like a soccer ball around the house or a trophy or anything that would imply that they play soccer.
And it's like a Special Olympics team, or it's like a.
But True is allowed to play on it.
Yeah.
Once we get to the end of the movie, it'll be kind of clear why this scene is there.
Mom and Dad are recording. They're recording this scene from the stands,
which is the most important part of this.
Yes. Well, but because. Also, you are
correct.
They work together.
And yes, it's kind of just played up here that we haven't really gotten a ton of them being twins. And
they're dribbling down the field.
There's narration from True where basically she just says what the Bella Twins would call in WWE as twin magic, where they've got some kind of telepathic link.
Yeah.
And something we haven't really talked about, but calling back to the beginning of the movie where we see them as young kids walking in the field, we start to see that being cut back to again throughout the movie, especially when they're sleeping. They'll be like True sleeping, and then that dream will show up, and then we'll fade out of the dream to Eddie sleeping. So it's kind of implying that they're sharing this kind of dream, whether it's supposed to be taken literal or not. It is thematic because as the scene progresses of them as kids, True's little version gets lost and she's separated from Eddie and she can't find him. Yes. So it is maybe a little ambitious for a decom, but I think it turns out pretty well, and it certainly tries for more than a lot of decoms.
Yes. In this scene, they do end up scoring a goal. Eddie does score a goal.
Yes.
They're dribbling, and then
twin magic comes out.
She passes to him, and he has a good shot. The goalie's having to dive to try to block it. But he scores, and it's a happy moment. Parents are finally happy. Dad's finally happy for once in his
My
life.
son's good at a sport.
Yeah, sign him
Too
up.
bad I be damn fucking soccer. Soccer, that's some bullshit. So then Dee Dee sends a response to True that says, hey, you know what? Just show your true self.
True.
All great artists have to take risks. So essentially what the mom had already told her, that you're playing it too safe, take risks. But since it's coming from Dee Dee, it's, wow. How'd you come up with this?
Yeah.
Where we'll eventually get the reveal that the mom is Dee Dee too.
The mom
True.
makes that exact same comment, right?
Something like that.
She makes the exact same comment that.
But so it's
Dee Dee
funny
had
where
typed
she
out
gets the
for her.
realization later on that she realizes her mom is Dee Dee because her mom says something that Dee Dee says.
Yes.
But she doesn't make the connection that Dee Dee could be her mom.
No.
That Dee Dee is saying something that her mom literally just said to her
Because Dee Dee
too.
is somebody, not her mother.
Got a blind spot.
Does not like mom or dad. Well,
But-
I guess maybe she doesn't. I think she just doesn't
True
like her
just is
mom.
gushing about Dee Dee.
Yes.
telling her-
like a lot. Like
her
she's telling her
girlfriend.
mother. Well, and she even tells her mother, like, God, this Dee Dee really like gets me. You know.
But her friend says, couldn't he be a 500-pound fat man on in
Yeah.
his mother's basement? But then she's like, no, she just gets me. She's real. You wouldn't
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah. Really loves Dee Dee.
Then she pulls
So
out
do
some
I.
old tapes now that she's supposed to be not playing it safe. She's supposed to take risks.
She pulls out her
top secret box of
I
don't know,
tapes.
the Dark Eddie tapes.
Yeah.
Where it's just a lot of
Dark
footage
Eddie.
of Eddie in uncomfortable situations. Some of it's fun, them kind of playing around.
Yeah. It was
But
like a
it'll
mix.
be specifically there's a scene where they are at a grocery store and they're checking out and Eddie wants to buy some candy, but they're leaving and they're not going to buy candy, and he just starts really getting aggressive.
It's
and
Eddie and the
angry.
sisters, so we don't know. This is the scene we talked about. We don't know who's filming this.
Yes,
It's confusing.
that becomes very questionable
because
but
the mom
who
or
is
dad would
filming
be
that?
getting involved, obviously. So maybe it's just one of the friends. Maybe
And then
it's
we get
Jake.
another scene of the dad getting upset during supper because Eddie spills some water or milk or something.
Yeah, and we see this scene a couple times throughout the movie, actually.
And that one at least is set up that she had set the camera on a shelf
Like
because
hidden,
at the
kinda.
end she goes and turns it off because she's like, oh, Dad's fucking freaking out again. And this is all set over a Bare Naked Ladies song.
Yeah.
Which is a rare time where Jacob will often be, hey, I think I recognize this song. And I'll always be like, no, you don't recognize this song.
But this one,
I didn't recognize the song, but I recognize the singer.
gotcha.
Because, it's Quest.
It's squints.
So then, Mom, True, and Eddie, no dad.
No dad.
He was busy.
always busy.
Take
never
a trip to
home.
the beach where Eddie tries to fly a kite and really struggles.
Yeah.
And he makes some comments about how he thinks...
This kite is stupid. This kite is retarded.
Yep. And actually, in one of those old tapes, we see some kids at school
They throw a
calling
ball
him.
at his head, and they're like, stupid retard
Yeah,
or something.
exactly.
And, yeah.
So
he has that
he has the connection that, like,
stupid and
people call
retards.
him, stupid or retarded. So then he's kind of putting that out onto other things,
Yes.
like the kite.
So the kite was acting stupid because it couldn't fly, so it was.
So then he thinks it's his fault that it's not flying, and he starts to cry.
Yeah.
And True is just sitting on the beach this whole time,
Just filming.
just filming him.
And
like,
she like makes that comment like towards other situations like this. Like, God, I wish I had my camera. Does that make me a terrible person?
she's just like a complete sociopath.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember mom.
She
I
does
guess,
say something like, "Oh, maybe there's just not enough wind, Eddie." But
yeah.
and then True is watching the footage as they're coming home that night. Eddie's sleeping in the back seat, and she shows it to her mom, and she says, "I think people are gonna laugh about this. I'm just too self-conscious. I don't want to put it out there." And the mom's just like, "No, you gotta take risks or whatever." And then True's, you know what? You kind of sound like my friend Dee Dee. She's so great. I know what you're gonna say. She's a 500-pound fat, sweaty man. And then the mom she's just like, speaking of Dee Dee.
Yeah, she doesn't say anything about
No,
it. She
this
doesn't-
movie's like, actually, let's hold the reveal of
Yes.
mom being Dee Dee
For 2 minutes.
about 2 scenes later.
Yes.
Maybe even like 1.5 scenes. Because the next scene, basically, she mails out her tape. It's all done. So then she goes home after mailing the tape to tell mom, and then the mom lets slip. She lets slip some kind of Dee Dee-ism of
She uses an exact
gotta
quote
be
that
true
Dee
to
Dee
yourself. But it's something so generic that
Yes.
it could come from anything.
Yes.
But the mom doesn't have the wherewithal
And she's
to
like,
lie.
what? Like, what the fuck did you just say, mother? Like, where did you hear that? Where did you hear that? And mom's like,
So
Are you her? You're her? You're
Why would you
dating?
do this? Would you just do to say I'm stupid, and then you'll use it against me?
It's
just
weird.
What are you going on about? True?
Why is she getting
Calm
pissy?
down.
So she's like, she's just mad at mom now.
She's very mad. She
and
says,
she'll
I
never
hate
talk
you.
to Dee Dee again.
Storms away. Then a weird follow-up is the family goes to a carnival or art festival.
Art festival. It turns into a Ferris wheel. It turns into Eddie like just running away, being lost, but not like really, not like a panic. Like we need to find him. He just like shows up.
It's not that kind of.
He shows up with a new hat on his head, and he's something in his hand.
So True says, "Where did you get the hat? Did Mom buy it for you? No.
The boys on the bridge.
Did you steal it? No. These people gave it to me, so they go to this.
We got to give it to him.
Bridge, and
I think Shia says like Billy Meyer.
Yeah, which I feel like they could have just had this big reveal.
Yeah,
and it was kind of shocking for me.
Yes, very.
Where one of the three boys is Billy Meyer, and then she says, sorry, my brother said this was your hat, and he says, no, it's not my hat, and she tries to hand it to him, and it's this dramatic shot of it dropping.
It's weird, yeah, like he pretends like he's gonna grab it, and she like hands it off to him, but he pulls his hand away, and it just drops.
It's kind of, in a way, literally the other shoe dropping, where we finally kind of coming to the realization of who Billy Meyer really is, and he says, no, I gave it to him. Isn't it Be Kind to Retard Week?
Yeah.
And then she just says, what the fuck? What did you say? And he says, yeah, and also, why would I want it back anyways after all three of us took turns spitting in it?
She's like, you spit in it, and then he let him put it on his head?
So yeah, she gets really upset, and he says, yeah, well, I think actually you maybe are more of a freak even than him. Which is that's the bridge too far where True doesn't. She's being nice sister here where she does the best thing she does.
She pushes him off to his death off the bridge.
It is not a. We should say this is a bridge over some water, but it's basically it's a park bridge.
It's like 15-foot drop maybe.
Maybe
he does like a backflip. He's able to like flip over.
Okay, maybe 10.
He does like a flip. He like falls backward in the air,
but it's like
lands in the
a
water.
Creek. In a park. Yes. It's very low stakes.
I wish he did.
Also, Billy Meyer, he's a super athletic hunk, so he's going to be fine.
He'll be fine.
He could have landed on his head, and he'd have taken that like a professional wrestler. And that was great. I wanted to push him into the water.
I wish his friends would have laughed. Like, ha 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 ha.
No, that would have been too cliche. Now the bully's been thwarted, so now we're going to be friends with Trudy.
Yes.
No.
But later on in the movie, we see him applauding her.
Do we?
Yes, when she's announced over the loudspeaker.
Oh, well, that doesn't even count.
Okay.
So then at home, Mom tries to make up with True, but she's too pissed about Billy, where she's like, Billy fucking Meyer, Mom! He spat in his hat! But no, everything's perfectly fine. And it's just like, okay. If I was the mom too, I'd be like, okay, True, just go off. I'm gonna go make supper or whatever. And then we get, I think, a very ridiculous scene that is kind of unnecessary in some ways, but it gets us to a good moment in the end where they go to this huge, positively gigantic library.
It has like 6 floors.
Yeah, where I know New York Public Library or something is very big, but New York Public Library doesn't have this atrium room that just goes straight up and there's this 5 or 6 floors.
Layers. And it's all open. It's like an open air, like...
very modern looking.
It's got a nice...
I don't know if this is...
2 elevators in it.
In some Canadian city, but yes, there's elevators.
Play a very important
part. It's not even clear why she's there because she was doing research earlier with those big books.
I think she's just there with Jake and Eddie.
Yeah,
that's it.
But why? Kids don't go to the library that often for kicks.
Eddie's reading some kids' books.
Yeah.
And he needs another because he finished it. So she tells him where they are. And then here we see him at like 4 racks. There's only 4 racks of children's books.
There's only 4 carts of children's books in this
whole
entire
library.
Huge library that happen to be right by the set of elevators.
He drops a book naturally. And then some dude just kicks it into the elevator.
Yeah, this is
and he crawls into it. But
some
then
real baby's day out shit.
Yeah, he crawls into it, but then we immediately see this whole thing packed with people. Like, we don't... How is he crawling through all these people? I think
there's a scene... I don't know, maybe it's in Fantasia 2000 or something, where like a ball goes into an elevator
bounces
and a kid follows it in, and then everybody...
bounces.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. Like so then he gets off on the floor where everybody else is. I think that's on the base floor, and then He just is wandering around and he's lost, and then
Immediately finds himself surrounded by bookcases.
shelves. And believably, he gets very upset and starts to scream.
He's
for True.
running down. Well, at first he runs down all these aisles and aisles, and he doesn't know where to go, and then he starts screaming. The whole library
True hears him 5 floors up.
Yes.
So her and Jake come down, but before they can get to him,
he gets
a
cornered.
very mean librarian.
Yeah, he gets cornered, and he's like, "Shh, little boy, shut up. This is a library. Shut up." And he backs him into a corner where the shelves just like collapse on top of him.
Knocks a bunch of books in, almost like the metal
The shelf onto his head. I was like, "Oh shit."
So then the librarian is just like a huge dick because True eventually gets there and he says, this is a library.
Get him out of here.
Maybe he should go outside. And it's just, I don't know how an adult like that could not just put it together that clearly this kid is,
because he's like, "Where's my sister? I need my sister. I need my sister."
Well, maybe before that he wouldn't know, but like after like he runs into the shelf.
And like they're like hugging him.
Yeah,
and,
it's like that would be clear where like only a huge dick, mean, serious librarian would say.
And Jake's like, "What the fuck, man? Can't you see they need a moment?"
And
fuck
even
off.
after
and
that,
like,
he's still, this is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to reshelve like 30 books here. Oh my God.
But then he says some more thing, and then he kind of seems like understanding, like, okay.
No, he's just begrudging, like, sure, I'll give you time.
Yeah.
Because he really is just kind of like, I want to reshelve these books.
Yes.
But then we get really, probably the second or first most emotional scene, where that's where I like this final dialogue, but the lead up to it is kind of just whatever. Where True's comforting Eddie, and he says to her, "I'm tired of being different."
Yeah.
And she says, "Oh, well, everybody's different.
different.
But no, True, I'm real different. And she goes off in some different ways.
Like, if you weren't different, you wouldn't be
get
my
a bunch of
brother.
extra help. And basically, it comes down to, because you're different, that's what makes you so special, and that's why I love you so much as my little brother."
Yeah.
Oh, getting choked up now.
Sad. Oh my God.
And then she starts to cry. And then
I
he's like,
start to cry.
"Did I make you sad? Are you sad, True?" And she's kind of like, "No." But she doesn't really go like, "These are happy tears" or whatever.
No, yeah.
But I thought this was a genuinely emotional, well-acted scene.
Jake's in the background wiping tears from his eyes.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, Jake, you?
Me.
But yeah, it's a very emotional scene, well-acted by both Shia LaBeouf and
yes, it is a good scene.
Under Wraps girl.
Not Gilbert.
Immediately follows up with her talking to her dad, where she tells her dad that in the moment she wished she could have had her camera. So she could have filmed
Does that
him
make me a
melting
bad
down.
person? This is where she makes.
And I would say a resounding yes, that would make you a bad person.
Or
that was your immediate feeling.
Yes.
But that kind of gets into, and they don't really get into it any more than that, because the dad says, "Oh no, you're fine." But that is interesting, where she's essentially making a mini documentary about her brother. And that is a thing I think that documentarians have to wrestle with a lot, where how much are you interacting with the subject that you're filming? You want it to be natural, organic, and not staged. But then do you sometimes have, for safety concerns, do you have an obligation to intervene? But True did not have the ability to film, but after intervening in the thing that she should have done, she's kind of like, man. That would have been some
why didn't Jake have my camera, damn it?
That would have been some sick footy right there.
Sick clips.
But the dad's like, "No, you're fine. I mean, you're not as bad as me." So
he gets his whole little movie to himself a little later.
And then she gets a letter saying, "Oh, what the hell? You know what? You won the contest." So then she...
Cut to her at school?
Not quite, because this is where she's congratulating, or her mom and Eddie are like, "Yay!" And she hugs her mom. But then she backs up.
Yeah, she realizes, like, "Oh, I fucking hate you, Dee Dee."
And I've seen some people misinterpret this, being like, "Why is she such a dick here?" But it's because they ain't watching it as closely as Lucas Melby is. Where this is a more nuanced than deep decom, where you can actually read into character motivations and actions, and they're not explicitly always spelled out what you're supposed to take away from it. Yeah. But in this situation, my read is she's hugging her mom, and then she remembers that she's like, "Wait, I'm still supposed to be mad at you," which is a very teenager thing to do.
Yes.
And then she throws her back and says, "If people make fun of me for all the personal stuff
blaming
I
you.
put in there, I'll blame you."
Yes.
And then there's still like a bit of like kind of perfunctory music at the end, kind of just like ba-doop, ba-doop, boom, where it's kind of the excited music, and then it ends that way, where both the mom and Eddie are just, "What was that about?"
No.
Trudy, am I right?
We don't know either.
So that was my take on that. Then at school, the principal makes a school-wide PA announcement to say, hey, our student True has this program that's going to be on television,
This is
everybody
where
should
we
watch
see the one dude like clapping.
Yeah, so the class is, everybody's kind of like, oh, that's cool, and we do see Billy Meyer do kind of very begrudging, slow clap,
yes,
golf clap kind of thing. So then it's the big night. True's gathered with her family and friends, but wouldn't you know it, isn't it always the case with those big, rich, professional dads that they're always not there when they need to be? Because the dad is at the hospital.
Yes.
So then we get to see the show. It's not dry and boring like her first draft. It's much more stylized in the way that of a lot of those interstitial cuts we've had.
Yeah.
We even see some of the same footage. Lots of shots of sunflowers. That was something I forgot to put in my notes, but I just remember that there's lots of shots of sunflowers, which I feel like is a very late 90s, early 2000s aesthetic. I feel like there's a Hanson music video. I don't know if MMMBop has sunflowers in it or something.
I think it does.
But that's just something I associate with that.
Yeah.
And some of the shots seem extremely staged because there's one where there's a spider web that looks fake anyways, but it's supposed to be like a nice spider web in the woods that's covered with
ew.
dew.
Isn't she like, ew, spiders or ew?
And Eddie's like, oh, a spider web. Ew, a spider web. That's gross, Eddie. No. And she even sounds fake as she's saying it. And then Eddie's like, no, it's beautiful. But it's being shot there behind the spider web. And somebody else is filming it on the other side.
Yeah.
So that could only be they're walking through the woods. They see this. And then she's like, oh, this would be a really good shot. I'm going to stage this.
Yes.
So fake documentary. That's bad True. You stay behind the camera. That's how you do a good documentary.
Not true confessions.
Yes.
False confessions.
That's the sequel.
Exposed.
False spelled FALZ.
Oh.
And then there's a funny cutaway to the dad where I can't remember what the joke is. If an athlete gets athlete's foot, what does an astronaut get? And the joke is mistletoe. And the dad at the hospital, who comes across the TV that's showing it, so he can watch it there, he's just like, fuck yeah, that's a knee slapper right there. He could have been in a stand-up special in the audience that cut away, and he's just like, because those people laugh way more than anybody. And then we start to get into some more emotional content where we see the sequence when they were at the grocery store.
Yeah,
she puts that in there.
It's like a quick light switch. Like, here's the truth behind it. Here's like the reality.
Yeah, she says, well, it's not all sunshines and rainbows with Eddie. She has a very funny anecdote where she says, I was going to go see Toy Story 2 with my friends. And then Eddie ruined it because he was having a tantrum or an episode where he was getting really elevated. So then we've seen some shots of Eddie looking sad and her friends looking sad and the mom kind of like comforting her like, hey, I know this is hard. And she says, I wish people would take the time to get to know him because I don't really feel sorry for him because I love him. He's my brother. It's not always easy living with him, but you got to take the good with the bad. All that kind of stuff. And, it's a good message. Everyone immediately around her is really impressed. Her friends and family are really liking it.
Yeah.
And then at the hospital, a fellow doctor walks up and says, hey, is that your kid there? And he's like, yeah. What are you doing here? Yeah. And he's like, yep, that's the road we take as doctors is we're absent fathers then. And it's like, oh, man.
Because you don't see serious. Papa in the video much.
No, and we'll see why. And then True's nervous about going to school because one of her friends, Jake, literally says, I wonder what everybody at school's going to think.
And they're all like,
oh, no. Yeah. And she goes.
She has like a
one of her
vision. One of her visions where it's like really old people,
all the
like
students
high schoolers.
In the normal school are not fake
except
kids.
Billy.
Billy doesn't look like he's a Buffy the Vampire Slayer character.
No, but like these two kids are like, what are they like? Oh God, what was she wearing?
I thought it was so
something?
Cliched and it was so basic and tried.
And then what was Billy's remark? Oh, teacher.
The teacher says, "Oh, she should have said it all in Spanish."
Yeah,
because I'm her Spanish teacher. And
what the hell?
That made me so mad for some reason.
I didn't like that.
And then Billy said, I don't know. He said something. He said retard again, and then Pasadena. Which I don't even understand how that joke works.
No.
If it's referencing Pasadena, California, but this movie does not give a location of where it exists, except that it's in Canada, based on some of the cityscape people know. I think it's supposed to be Vancouver or something. Yeah. But nope, she goes to school and everybody's complimenting her and Eddie because they walked in together. And then everybody just stands and claps.
Yeah.
And then they walk off and they're like, arm wrapped around each other's shoulder, being like, yeah, I want it. Everybody claps. They lift them up and they're like, Rudy.
Eddie.
But we do not see Billy here looking like,
no, he's fucking done.
I guess I'm wrong for being a mean dick. But so, yeah.
Prick.
I think that's fine. It would have been kind of fun just to get like one last shot.
You see him in the background, just like.
Exactly. Dad at home tells True because he says like, oh, I saw it and then I watched it again on tape.
But why wasn't I in there?
Yeah, some people, you could have fooled somebody to think you maybe even didn't have a father.
Yeah.
Well, Dad, it's because if I showed the footage that I had of you, you probably wouldn't have been very happy.
Yes. And he's
Dad
like,
says,
well, why?
What? What are you talking about?
Why is that?
Let me see. Come on.
Can't be that bad.
I got my pants down or something? So then she shows him, and it's basically just a supercut. Some that we've seen before.
We've seen the milk spill like 5 times by this time.
But it's just him being a dick, which is mostly what we've seen.
What were the others? Do you remember what the other ones were?
Like him being on the phone and Eddie bothering him.
Yeah.
We just hear him say, like, Eddie, your room's a mess, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, always yelling at Eddie. And like it's like a 30 seconds of him just, at first he's kind of like looking like happy that he's like in these clips, but then he just like gets sadder and sadder.
Hey, that's me. Huh, look, isn't this a thing? That's me on the television. And then,
no. He's like more and more sad and more sad. And
which kind of starts to feel like it's a weird intervention where it's like, in the last 10 minutes.
This is like him changing. Like, this is like his peak change. Like, he maybe changed when they played catch. Maybe, but probably
unlike
not.
some other DComs where some of this forced resolution with the characters feels forced, this is definitely needed.
Yeah.
Where there generally is a decent arc
that wake up
for most of the characters in this movie, maybe with the exception of Eddie. But
yeah, he's just
kind
always
of
the same.
A lot of what we learn about Eddie is he's kind of just
Eddie. He's Eddie,
arrested in the state where he's in, where he is limited in the kind of growth he can have. But he's a catalyst to make other people around him better.
He changes other people for the better.
So then Dad is like, "Hey, you know what? This is a wake-up call. I didn't realize I was a dick."
She's like, "No,"
most of the time.
And she's like, "No, Dad, we understand your job is hard." And da-da-da-da.
But she did say, "It's either you weren't here or you were," and this is the footage we got. So then he says, "Hey, I'm gonna try to be better."
And we see later on him trying.
And True tells him that Eddie loves us even when we make mistakes.
Yeah.
All we have to do is love him back.
Because if God...
Which is a good message.
God would draw the
we don't need that was a line from Eddie. It was a little confusing.
That was weird.
But then, in this collection of footage she had, she sees one last clip, and it's her talking about her mom, where she said, "If I was gonna make my own movie, I would recast my bitch-ass, ugly, most mother mom."
Zoom in on Mom's face, just sad, depressed, suicidal.
So then it's time for True to really eat crow or whatever.
Yes.
And do her hard bit of growing where she needs to reconcile with her mom.
Heads out to the garden to find Mima.
And it's kind of weird at first because the mom's watering.
The mom looks back at her, sees her, and fucking runs away. She doesn't like run away, but she moves
behind like a bush to go water there.
She's like, ugh, fuck.
Or she doesn't even want to
I don't want to
get
yelled at again. You know, that's probably like what she's thinking. Like, what am I going to...
But she finally stops watering and is willing to talk to True.
Yeah, what do you want?
And it really comes down to what we've already heard her say in some other scenes where she just missed True and she missed having her talk to her about everything.
Yeah.
And she found this outlet in Dee Dee that allowed her to still give advice to her daughter when her daughter was rejecting her, which I think is something that a lot of parents probably go through as their kids grow up.
Not sure.
They grow up so fast and then they're on the internet talking to 500-pound men named Misty 77.
Misty.
And True's like, yeah, I'll still tell you things, but you gotta understand, I'm not gonna tell you everything in my life.
Yeah, and then she gets like really like kind of like weird.
And then True really starts to lament about she's struggling a lot with everything going on, especially with Eddie, because she's starting to come to a realization that, especially I think related to some of the stuff Eddie's talked to her about, where sure, as kids, Eddie was different, but they were still kids. They were playing, being goofy, growing up. But now she's growing up and she's starting to see the difference between her and Eddie even more. And she's realizing that she'll grow up, she'll go on to college, get married, whatever.
And Eddie might never have this.
But Eddie's just probably going to stay the same.
Yeah.
And that is it's an emotional thing.
Yeah.
And then the narrator kicks in to be like, hey, life isn't perfect.
Life ain't a box of chocolates.
And things don't wrap up easily because this is not a sitcom. This is a soap opera.
Yes.
And she says, hey, everybody, we're still working. I'm still working on getting along with Mom.
And she's
more.
showing clips. Like, they're like her vlogs again while she's talking about these.
Dad's working on not freaking out so much, though we see a clip of him making a card castle or card house of cards.
House of cards.
With Eddie. And then Eddie knocks it over. And the dad freaks out, but is able to reel it back in a bit.
Yes.
Which I know, we'll get into some of this in a short little bit, that some people didn't like that the dad isn't perfect at the end.
No.
But it's not realistic.
No, because she said we're not perfect. And, like, that's fine. Not every DCOM needs to wrap up with a bow on top.
And Eddie's still Eddie. So everybody else is working through their issues, but Eddie is still Eddie.
Yes.
And yes, it's very un-DCOM-like, which is what I respect so much about it being not a clean, happy finish where they're all going to Dairy Queen getting a Mr. Misty.
Misty Freeze.
Sorry, Misty Freeze. And then Eddie goes to a baseball game and throws the perfect fastball, and then they have $1 million cookout.
Somewhere in here, too, we see like the flashback to when they were kids.
Yeah, so that comes where the final sort of sequence is Eddie and True are rewatching the tape of their, I guess, probably most recent soccer game where Eddie scored.
Yeah.
And it's him scoring, and they're celebrating, and then he keeps rewinding it. And she's like, Eddie, come on, we've watched it like 15 times. It's not going to change. And he says, I know it's not going to change. That's what I like about it. Because it is us as twins. And that is why they had to have the soccer thing in there, because this is a very poignant and nice ending. But they had to contrive a scene in there to be able to get to this point. And then we get a fade out to them
finding each other as children in the
field.
And they're happy.
It all comes full
They're
circle.
happy
So
children.
like that is a very ambitious kind of recurring little vignette throughout this movie that ties together.
Like it's ahead of its time.
And after the credits, we see
calendar.
a message about like the Special Olympics.
Yeah, they promote that, and there's another number too they promote.
Yeah, some kind of brother and sister program or something.
Yeah.
That was True Confessions, and I think this movie's pretty good.
It is.
This is, I think, one of those, without maybe some of like the little goofy fake sitcom stuff at the beginning of the movie, but this is one that could just be like a decent family drama.
Good movie, yeah.
And has a good message.
Like, and we don't even have to like BS it just because, it's like about racism or it's about, whatever it is.
Like
it's not like, oh, like we really like this. Like it's a good movie.
The Color of Friendship had good content in it, but it still felt like made for TV, DCOM, at least its production values and stuff like that. Where I feel like this, where they could sometimes be a little obnoxious, the interstitials, the editing style of some of the movie was unique in a way that brought it above a usual DCOM.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think good message, pretty realistic characters. I didn't like True at the beginning. I don't necessarily love her a ton at the end, but I can understand and relate to what she's going with.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty good.
Good movie.
Not much more to say about that.
No.
So that was True Confessions. And if you want to give your true confessions to us, you can write to us at awholenewpod@gmail.com.
Or leave a comment on one of our YouTube videos you might be watching.
Yes, we can plug Apple Podcasts, rate us, review us on there. You can also find us on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Newly, Stitcher, and also YouTube, where you just search A Whole New Pod. You should be able to find us, and that's always a fun place. We're popping off in some views every once in a while.
A few views there.
My favorite thing now for each episode is for comments. So the two standout ones, continuing theme of stuff we've discussed before, where I have a comment on our Genius episode.
Oh.
Chaz Anthony himself representing, where somebody just asks, please full movie, and then about 7 praying hand emojis.
Oh my. the second comment we've got that people wanted the movie.
Oh, at least like probably
Maybe
like the
more.
fourth or fifth.
Yes.
And then on Motocrossed, somebody commented, "Hey, I need to see the fucking movie." Popcorn emoji right now.
So does that mean they were looking for it, or they like listened to it and they really loved it?
I don't know, Deanna Powell, right back again and tell us. And it's
Did you love
understandable.
our pod so much, or do you just want...
No, I don't think that's the case. But Motocrossed, that was another one we enjoyed a fair bit.
Yeah.
I think there's something about the disconnect of, I need to see the fucking movie, but then the popcorn emoji next to it.
Yeah, the popcorn emoji is kind of fun.
Exactly.
So it's like, yeah, so it's like, did they listen to it and they're just like, fuck, I love that movie. I want to see it. This sounds so good.
But my guess is that
Look at her subscriptions. See if she's subscribed to us.
with iPhones, when you type in something,
Sometimes it
it
suggests.
associates it with an emoji.
Yes.
So it could just be like, movie, popcorn emoji, fuck you.
Tell us if you're listening, if you care.
Yeah. So I meant to kind of bring this up somewhere, probably actually at the intro, which I said, oh, I planned this out. But I sometimes have a morbid curiosity where I'll watch a movie like this and I'll be like, I thought this was pretty good. And I know that there's kind of a dime a dozen out there of some similar podcasts to ours, some that even go in chronological order. And I kind of want to start a beef with one,
Yeah.
but I don't think I'm going to call them out by name, especially because they've had our idea years before us and have actually, I think, gone through all of the movies chronologically already. So now they're just doing like Good Burger and stuff like that. But these people that do this podcast are so negative.
Yes.
I've listened in, just hopping in and be like, oh, what did they think about this movie? And it's just repeatedly negative.
Yeah.
And I fall into the camp where I enjoy internet critics like Red Letter Media and sorts like that, where they can be very nitpicky and overly critical in some sense. Usually I think it's justified, but when you are doing a podcast about Disney Channel original movies, you gotta know what you're getting into.
Yes.
Nostalgia, I guess, is a hell of a drug. But you gotta remember, some of these movies are not great. And also, there's a lot of these movies that you probably did not see or remember. Ready
Yeah.
to Run, for example.
No.
But like Xenon, we enjoyed Xenon, but I'm not saying Xenon's a great
movie. Yeah.
It's good on the grading curve of Disney Channel original movies. Whereas
Yes.
this, something like this, or even like Cadet Kelly,
Yeah.
or Don't Look Under the Bed, I can feel slightly better about being like, this is a movie that could exist outside the trappings of the Disney Channel. But these people also have the audacity to assign a score to the
Yeah.
movies at the end of each episode out of 10.
Yes.
That sounds just ridiculous to me. If you think it's ridiculous, you can check out my Letterboxd account where I will assign star ratings to all of these movies. I think Cadet Kelly, I did like 3 stars.
Oh, wow.
Because the way I look at it is like 3.5 stars is like a good movie. 3
Out
stars
of 5?
Out of 5.
Yes. Well, that's important to say, too. Their rating was out of 10.
Yeah. And it's just like, they gave this movie True Confessions. Most of them gave it 3 out of 10
Yes.
or lower.
How? Why?
What world are we occupying where we are basically taking on the exact same mission, doing the exact same thing, and coming away with such vastly different things?
opinions. Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, to compare, what is probably our least favorite, or at least the one where we feel the greatest disconnect with people? The 13th Year.
Mm.
So I checked their video. They also have stuff up on YouTube, but
Yeah.
I was listening in. Most of them still rated the 13th Year like 3 out of 10.
Hmm.
But I overheard them say they thought the effects of the 13th Year were pretty good.
Yikes.
And like those, they're like, yeah, they still hold up pretty well. I'm like, oh, we're rewatching the same
Yikes.
movie. So then I listened to our old podcast where we talked about the effects at the end, and I just found that funny. You know, some of our old episodes are actually kind of good. So I don't know. I just find it kind of depressing. I think
They
this is
couldn't have
a
got
genuinely
more out of the
good
movie.
movie
Yeah, like-
that tries for something that not a lot of Disney Channel movies do.
I think you had mentioned too that it's not just like these guys that like look to just nitpick hard. Like there are other people that just like to just kind of rip them apart.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly the popular trend with horrible YouTube channels like CinemaSins, where something that is horrible about the democratization of something like movie criticism through something
and like you said, there are some bad decoms that are just like too goofy or they're just like
Oh,
dumb.
Ready to Run. I rated that on Letterboxd 0.5 star. The lowest possible rating.
But yeah, they're just like dumb movies, or and I can see why you'd be like, oh, this is just kind of like a waste of my time. Like you didn't really get anything. There wasn't like a message there, It was just kind of meh.
This is a grander discussion, but the advent of YouTube film criticism or just Twitter film criticism or whatever is people think, and I'm not saying we are qualified to be like critics, but there are people who have the tropes and the vernacular, the terms where plot holes and MacGuffins.
And they're using that.
Dissonance, and like people mislabeled plot holes in so much. I'll say, especially Last of Us Part 2, I thought the game was fine. I enjoyed it plenty. People were throwing around, there was a billion plot holes, so I just typed in Last of Us Part 2 plot holes Reddit to find this giant list of somebody like, these are plot holes, and it was mostly just stuff that characters did that they didn't like. Like, people take these terms and it's ruining popular criticism of these things because people just don't know what the fuck they're talking about. But they feel like they're equipped with these terms
their
to
opinions
use it that way.
Yes.
These people didn't like this movie, and what frustrated me the most is I just kind of skimmed through parts of their episodes. Yes, they were mad like with something like the dad, he was still a jerk at the end. Literally, as this is happening, the line is, we're not perfect. This isn't a happy ending. Yes. And it's like, when they're so just missing the point of the movie, and when it's an actual like good, realistic message that is pushing the envelope for Disney Channel original movies, it frustrates me when these people probably would wish there was 4 more Xenon movies, even though they'll probably not like Xenon Z3 that much because Protozoa got recast. Oh my god, my childhood. You're ruining my childhood, Disney Channel.
Zoom.
I guess I don't really know ahead of time if there's more serious movies like this, like that one.
I don't know.
About like the girl on the aircraft carrier. I feel like that's probably going to be more Cadet Kelly kind of shenanigans. Now we're getting Zombies 2. Which
now they're getting really
I am still very excited to see Zombies 2 because on Disney Plus, and all it is like, these 2 characters meet some werewolves, and I'm like, I want to get there. But I still got to respect life isn't perfect, and you got to take... It's more interesting with more flavors, and I certainly don't just need variations of fantasy magical shit, sports shit, or fantasy magical shit shoved into sports shit, which is how it mostly seems to come out with DCOMs.
No.
So the end theme of what you should take away with this is, I'm not tired of DCOMs.
No.
We feel like we're on a good stretch right now. We're enjoying a lot of these movies. We got a fucking Lindsay Lohan movie coming up. It's a mystery movie. Get a clue. What? And I'm enjoying them. I feel they're varied. So yes, I'm sorry. Don't take this away that I'm frustrated or tired with the episode or the show, no matter how much I complain about having to edit it.
No.
But know that I am hopeful that these DCOMs will continue to be interesting. But in the back of my mind...
We don't mind the occasional bad movie.
I'm just tired with mainstream, or just not mainstream, but like public film criticism.
Yeah.
And I think it wins out in the end. I think it'll win out with the DCOMs, where they'll become more generic, especially post High School Musical. Then they get a formula that they're after. But even in mainstream movies, Marvel, it's the lowest common denominator, but it's very popular, and some of those movies are good. Some of those movies are pretty formulaic. And at least something COVID has given us, that no movies are coming out anymore, so we don't need to deal with new Marvel movies right now.
Yeah.
But hey, my constant subscription to Disney Plus gives us the opportunity to pay an additional $30 to watch Mulan. Fuck you, Disney. I'm not doing that.
$30?
$30.
Why?
On top of me already paying up front for 3 years of Disney Plus.
Why?
It's a good question.
Why not like 7 or 8 like a movie theater?
Because then a family gets off for free. When the whole point of streaming services is they want you to pay for it forever. So if Mulan's a great movie and you want to always have access to it, they should just only put it on the service. And that's actually, Disney Vault's already a thing.
That's really bad.
All right, we're getting.
Well,
I'm also tired with Disney. I'm not going to lie with that.
That's like really bad. $30. That's stupid.
I'm just not going to see it. Also, Tenet. If they release that digitally, and I understand Christopher Nolan is an auteur and he filmed it with IMAX and that's how he wants it to be seen. I understand that. I'm not going to see that movie in theaters. If they released that one digitally for $30, I would probably pay for it. But also, you know what you could do? Release it digitally, release it in IMAX again once everything fucking hopefully calms down next summer. And if it's not a shit movie, people will fucking see it. I would go see it if I could find like a nearby IMAX theater to see it. But now we need to cut ourselves off.
Totally off.
I am afraid we are now still going long when we tried not to.
No.
So
you might not even be listening anymore, and that's okay too.
With that, I'm just going to sign off and say, be good to each other. Nobody's perfect. And also with the words of Hannah Montana, I'm going to work it.
No. No, 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 no! Oh, no, no, no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no! No, 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 no! See, no, get no. No, watch it. No, wait. No, no. No. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Yeah, no, no. Yeah, no, no, no. No, 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 no. Oh, no, no, no. No, no. No, 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 no. Oh, no, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, it's no, 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 no.